Ken Whiting here on a beautiful fall day. The leaves are turning, the nights are cooler. I love this time of year. I love this time of year for paddling. Unfortunately, I'm not doing any paddling this fall because of a bum shoulder, but I can talk about paddling and I can enjoy a beautiful fall day. And so let's get right into it. These are the top tips for fall paddling. And the first one is accepting the fact that days are short and getting shorter and how that impacts your paddling. The obvious impact is that you need to change or accommodate the fact that you have less daylight hours. And so you may need to choose smaller paddles. If you're on multi-day trips, expect to cover less distance. But also, because the days are shorter and it's easier to find yourself out there in low light situations or even in the dark, you need to be prepared for that. And that means bringing an emergency kit. An emergency kit is a kit that has anything you might need if things don't go as planned, including stuff to be able to comfortably, or maybe not even comfortably, to survive an unexpected night out in the wilderness. The other thing that you probably want to bring when you're on fall paddling trips is a headlamp. Even though you might not be planning on being out past dark, it comes quick. And so bring a light source. For some people, it might even make sense to bring a light that mounts on your kayak to notify other boat traffic. The next tip is dressing for colder conditions. And for colder water, that means dressing in a way that you can comfortably survive an unexpected swim. And depending on how cold the water is and the environment, a number of factors, that can mean simply layers that insulate even when they're wet. Things like merino wool, polypropylene, fleece. But if as the water gets colder, the air temperature gets colder, that can mean wetsuits and ultimately dry suits. You also have to take into consideration the fact that there are greater temperature swings in the fall throughout the day. And so it's harder to dress one way for a full day outing. You need to bring extra gear with you, ideally in a dry bag, to adapt your clothing system to the conditions as they change throughout the day. Now, one of the things I love about the fall is usually the lack of biting bugs. These little suckers are annoying though. Now here's a quick fall paddling tip. I've always found fall to be a great time to explore the water trails, the paddling routes, whatever, that are the most popular in your area or beyond, because in the summer, they can just be packed with people. But in the fall, you might find that you have it all to yourself. The other amazing thing to do in the fall is to upgrade your paddling gear, because you'll find some fantastic sales on products of all types, paddling gear, camping gear, as well as boats. You don't have to wait for Black Friday sale either. Usually at the end of summer, right to Black Friday, paddling shops are trying to sell through or selling off this year's inventory to make way for next year's models. Here's another safety tip for the fall is leave a float plan with someone who isn't going on the water with you. There's less chance that you're going to run into other paddlers on the water. And because the days are shorter and the temperature swings are greater in the fall, you can get caught out, and it can be more dangerous being caught out for the night. Leaving a float plan with somebody so that they know where you should be, where you're going, and when you expect to be back becomes more important in the off season than in summer, although it's always important. And the final fall paddling tip that I've got for you right now is a pretty important one, but often overlooked one, which is fall is a great time to start planning your trip for next year, or a trip, something special for next year. Get it into the calendar and get those dates locked down. Too often when we don't do that, when we don't lock down some dates in the next year for a trip that we would love to do, there's reasons that come up, excuses, realities that come up that make us feel like we can't do that trip. I'll tell you what, we have too short a time on this planet not to make time for things like paddling trips with, whether it's solo, with friends or loved ones. It's one of those things that I really think you have to make time for, and the sooner you block that time and commit yourself to it, the better. Fall is a great time to do it for next year. Another cool thing about that is it gives you something to look forward to all year long, and it gives you something to it sometimes provides a little push that's needed for people to get out on the water, maybe train for a trip or get into shape for that trip, get out more than they might otherwise do. And so plan your next year's paddling trip now, lock those dates in, and that's all I got for right now. Love to hear your thoughts about fall paddling tips. You know where to leave them, comment section down below, and otherwise stay tuned. Got lots more paddling tips, gear reviews, and paddling ventures coming your way. Subscribe to Paddle TV if you haven't already too. See you soon.